Thank you
How are
for
you doing?
great. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, of course.
So tell me a little bit about your background, Holly.
Okay, so I am your typical Midwest girl. Growing up, I used to, we would just sit there. We would like spend any waking moment we could. We would just do like choreography for dance routines. We would sit there and do the original Jane Fonda workout video. I don't even know if you know what that is, but it is. Jane Fonda actually kickstarted the entire VHS home fitness thing. Like she started that entire thing. And my mom used to do that workout video, so I actually grew up doing the same workout video, and I still do that today. And it sounds crazy, but it's like your typical 80s aerobic video. But you know what? The advanced version, it works so good. It is so hard, but it works. It's amazing. So we just do a bunch of dance routines, do a bunch of choreography just for fun. I had like a little Britney Spears and NSYNC fan club going on with my neighbor girlfriends. And yeah, it was a pretty good childhood for a couple of years. So I was a total band geek. Love that. But anyway, so I got in the cheerleading world just because I liked, creating dance routines. Like I love dance. I like to be in the spotlight. So, and it's just a lot of fun. So I got into the whole cheerleading world at the end of junior high school, like right into high school. Cheerleading then. I did football, basketball cheerleading, and wrestling cheerleading. So all of the throughout high school, I did all of that, and I did go to our wrestling team. Actually, did go to state. Wow. That was like the big thing, when you're in high school, you're like, oh, I get to go to Madison and cheer at the Kohl Center, and you're like, this is so cool. But I liked different aspects of each sport. Right. Basketball was super fun, so I liked that aspect of basketball cheerleading. Just because you got to be out on the court, you got to be performing routines, and it was like a whole different kind of feel. I liked football cheerleading for a different reason because you got to be out on the field. You have the football players. I mean, they did look hot in their like tight, pants or whatever. But anyways, yeah. So football cheer was great just because you got to be out on the track. But wrestling cheerleading, that was like a whole different ball game just because you got to pound on the floor and you got to do these really cool beats. And by basically, you're literally just straight up pounding on the floor and you're doing these beats. And it was just like so cool because you're not performing routines. You're just like doing these really awesome, sick beats. Yes. And it was just awesome. So that's like my whole childhood with everything throughout high school.
What was your transition after high school, Holly?
So after high school, I was a nursing assistant at the time, like towards the end of high school. So I was a nursing assistant. Not that I didn't like that job field, I just felt like I wanted to do something more glamorous, so I ended up going to beauty school, and I got my cosmetology practitioner's license. So I did that, which I had a lot of fun doing. And then sometime was the whole UCA cheer kind of genre situation, whatever you want to call it. So basically what that is it's the Universal Cheerleading Association of America, and you basically for the All-Star title and to make a spot on the All-Star team. So people that don't understand the cheerleading world, it's kind of like baseball. So if guys understand baseball with the All-Star team. So you're taking people who are talented from a bunch of different teams, and then you're putting them all together on one team, and they're all stars and whatever. Yeah. Basically the same thing in the cheerleading world. So now, or it was called All-Star, but now I think they call it All-American, but it's the exact same thing. Okay. So I competed and I won 3 years in a row. So I got to be a UCA All-Star cheerleader 3 years, and that was amazing. I worked so hard for that. and I don't know. It was great. I have my medals. I will cherish them forever. I don't know. I love competing. I love the adrenaline that you get from competing in a dance, because like when you're competing for the All-Star, you're not like stunting because you're by yourself. You're just straight up just killing a dance routine. Yeah, there's a lot of talent there, and basically, so what they did was it's from all around the U.S. So it's like a national thing. And then once you're on with UCA, then it becomes international at that level. So you're competing in some other schools, from around the U.S. So it's not just like, okay, I'm just going to compete against my little girls from my own high school. So, I mean, I was competing against them too, because a few of them also were competing, but it's a new competition at that level. So.
And how did you get into modeling, Holly?
So, the wonderful world of modeling. Okay, so when I was younger, I wasn't like with an agency. I wasn't doing a lot of like large modeling things or anything like that. I think when I was in junior high, I did. I don't know if you remember Fashion Bug.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I don't even know if they're still around. I have no idea if they're still like. But anyway, so back in the day when I was younger, I would do like fashion shows for Fashion Bug because that was like the thing. My sister actually did that with me, so that was kind of cool. But like I would do like small, odd like modeling things here and there. So it wasn't like I was getting paid a lot of money for these things or having representation or anything like that. It was just kind of like, oh, she's cute. Let's put some clothes on her and throw her in this fashion show. So I don't even remember how I got into that. I think like I knew someone who knew someone who was looking for some people who were basically like cute girl clothing and like would be like in that genre of, here's this cute person in these cute Fashion Bug clothing. So I think that's just what it was. It was like I knew someone who knew someone, but it wasn't anything large at that point. And then I didn't do much with modeling when I was in the whole cheerleading aspect, just because cheerleading, it was very time consuming, and not that that's a bad thing. Like I was very committed to practicing, to coming up with new routines. I was also the captain a couple years in a row, so I was very busy leading the other cheerleaders and doing that whole thing, because I was basically, I mean, sports is year round, so I was consumed year round with the whole athletic world, and so there wasn't much room for the modeling thing in there. But in addition to sorry, I'm like spewing all this info. There's so much information. But also in high school, I would do like hair and makeup for my friends for like dances, prom, homecoming. They would come to me because I would, in any free time that I had out of cheerleading and my studies, I would be spending it in my room playing with my hair and doing makeup and doing all this other stuff. So it wasn't necessarily the modeling world, but it was me just, I don't know, killing it at life, I guess. So anyways, I'll fast forward back to the college era. So after beauty school, actually no, this was towards the end of beauty school, but I think I was still in beauty school for, I think I had like 6 months left. So I was living in northern Wisconsin, and to do what I did. But basically, when I was in high school, I would watch The Girls Next Door. And I don't know if you remember them, but they had the show on E, Girls Next Door, Bridget, Kendra, Holly. And I was like the hugest fan ever. And I was like, I want to be them, whatever. So I was a huge fan. So, and like I got all into that whole thing then. And so I don't know what happened, but when I was in beauty school, I just decided, I'm like, how do I get into that world of stuff? And I ended up researching on the internet, into like the depths of some thread or forum or something. I don't even know how I came across what I came across, but it was basically like it it was like the contact information for the editor at Playboy.
Okay.
And I literally spent forever trying to find this information, and the fact that I found it, I don't even know if it's probably still out there. I doubt it's still out there somewhere. But anyways, so I got the contact information of like, how do you reach out to Playboy, or how do you get a hold of the editor, or whatever. So I ended up sending in a letter to Playboy, to the editor at Playboy, and I just explained everything. I'm like, look, like, huge fan, like, this is something I really want to do. Because to me at that point, I just really wanted to be in Playboy, Sports Illustrated, or Maxim.
Right.
And at that time, like, I didn't even care which one it was. I just wanted to do one of the three just because, I don't know, I'm awesome like that, I guess. So Playboy ended up being like the number one option. I didn't even really research much about Sports Illustrated and Maxim just because I was a big fan of Girls Next Door, and I just wanted, I was just a huge fan, so I ended up researching that one first. And so I found the contact information. I set up a whole letter. I included photographs because that's, you have to include photographs. You have to include your license. They know you're over 18, and that whole thing. So I mailed this letter off, and it was like a week later, and I was at work, and on my break, I had the voicemail, and I like listened to this voicemail, and the voicemail was from Stacy, and she's like, "Hey, this is Stacy from Playboy Enterprises. We're interested. We love your letter. Blah blah blah. Give us a call back." And I was like dying, right? I'm just like, this is not a real phone call. I'm like, there's no way this is a real phone call. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. I just called her back, and I was like, am I really? I'm like, this is insane. Like, I can't believe I'm actually speaking to them. And I mean, she's like the nicest lady ever. And yeah, it turned out I was still like skeptical at that point, just because I was raised in a very conservative home, like, don't trust a bunch of people and craziness, because you never know. People are weird.
Right.
And that sounds bad, but you know what I mean. So I was still kind of a little bit skeptical, and I don't think that it really hit me until like I got the email of like, because they sent me a whole itinerary, all my flight information, all of this stuff. It didn't really hit me until like that point. I'm like, maybe this is real. Of course, I was still investigating, like a crazy human that I am. I was like, because they have like all the addresses on there and stuff, so I'm just like looking up all the addresses and making sure like it's an actual legitimate thing,
Right.
And because I was 19 at the time, like I didn't know anything about that, so I was just like trying to safeguard myself. So yeah, so I basically, my boyfriend at the time, we're not together anymore, but at the time he drove me to the airport, and he he dropped me off, and he wished me luck and all this other stuff. And at the same time, I was still like kind of a little bit skeptical about it, just because I wasn't sure. So I'm just like, okay, when I landed, there was somebody waiting there for me with like a sign and stuff like that. And I was like prepared, basically kidnapped. Am I going to be like taken off into like, like, you never know, right? So of course I was thinking of like all the worst things that can possibly happen to you. And it was fine because I ended up talking to the guy who was the driver, and he was telling me about all of the other, people and celebrities that he's picked up at the airport. And then he started telling me all these stories about stuff. And then I was like, okay, I don't think, I'm going to be kidnapped. And like, so at that point was when I was like, okay, I think this is fine. And then he took me right to the mansion, and then I was there for a bit, and it was a crazy, unreal, unforgettable experience, and I'll never forget it. So the goal was basically to do shoots. So we did like, they call it like test shoots, but basically it's like for Playmate, Cyber Girl, just stuff for their website because Playboy has like a million different like departments.
Branches.
So they have like, College Girl magazine or the website, or like they have the Playboy TV, they have the magazine, they have the online part, Playboy Plus. Now I think they've changed it a little bit now that he passed away and his son took over. But generally speaking, at the time it was, hey, Holly's here, we're gonna do a bunch of shoots. Yeah.
Was that the first time? Was that the first time you modeled?
That was my first legitimate modeling experience. Yes.
And how has your transition from that period?
So my transition from then to now, I don't know. I just, it's crazy because I learned so much from even that one experience that, like, the photographer, I mean, these are very skilled people. The photographers, the lighting people in the studio, everybody there, they're all talented and they're all, like, very professional. They were very respectful. None of them were, like, creepy and weird. So they were very, very professional. And they were actually teaching me, like, tidbits of stuff. Like as like as I was there, like a photographer was like giving me information, advice, things like that. Actually, my photographer is Stephen Wada. Mm-hmm. So he's like a renowned celebrity photographer, and he has done so many Playboy shoots and so many like, I guess, modeling shoots, you want to call them. But he's such a talented photographer, and he was the one who was like, you need to get an agent ASAP, you look amazing, like, because he was like, do you have an agent? And I'm like, no. And then he was also like, because at the time you could try to be in Playboy by doing like a casting call. Yeah. And he's like, those things are never like good. You don't want to do that. And because he asked me, he's like, how did you get here? And I'm like, I sent in a letter and they liked what they saw and they flew me out here. And and he's like, that's the way to do it. He's like, you don't want to, be one of those casting call situations. Those girls never are good or like whatever. And I'm like, okay, like, because I'm like 19, I don't know anything. So I'm like, okay, cool, So, but it was really nice that they kind of gave advice to me. So I think that was, I mean, at first, like, I felt a little bit out of place because I had never done a professional modeling shoot up to this point. So I was also there learning as I was going, but I was comfortable after a little, the initial like shock kind of like settled down. I was like, it was fine after that. But yeah, so that kind of helped me transition into a whole, it gave me a different perspective on, okay, now you should actually take this somewhere, because here's somebody who's literally photographed for like 40 plus years of like past Playboy people, and he's telling you, you're amazing, get an agent, like giving you all this advice, and it's like, okay, now you need to be like professional about this whole thing. You should actually take this somewhere. So yeah, so now I think, I don't even know, I was with like 15 to 20 different agencies. But recently I signed with Stars Marketing Group, so they're amazing. I love them. They actually they care about me as a human, and they care about my career path and where it's going. They're such nice, genuine people. So I'm like really grateful that I have them. So yeah. Here I am.
Do you have any upcoming goals, Holly?
Yeah, so I have a lot of things happening. So I'm starting my own company, and it's been in the works for probably about a year or so. I'm just trying to like nail down the direction that I want to go, and then also I'm trying to figure out what lab I want to use, just because like I care about what I'm putting out there because I'm putting my name on it, and I want it to be good, and I want it to be high quality and professional and everything like that. So I'm kind of like a perfectionist in that sort of area where it's like I'm not going to put something out there that I don't personally like or want to use. So I want to make sure, I mean, coming out with your own line of stuff takes forever if you want it to be done a certain way. So it's like consuming my time, but in the end, it'll be worth it. It'll be great. So I'm just starting with that. In a couple weeks, I'm going to launch. So I have like presets for Lightroom. So I'm going to launch those. I just did a collaboration with my friend's candle company. Her candle company is called Better Half Collection. Her candles are like so cool. They have really cool sayings on them. They're like very inspiring. I don't know, very awesome candles. So I'm partnering with her, and then we are doing like a Holly Jo times Better Half Collection candle. So we're coming out with that. So we're gonna probably do more along the road, but we're just starting with one for now. So yeah, I mean, the candle it's more of like a clean, earthy, kind of masculine candle, but like more like I don't know how to describe it, more like not sweet and fruity. It's more like I don't know, earthy, kind of like foresty. I don't know how to describe it, but basically it's a very like clean scented candle, something you can like have lit daily. There's a really cool inspirational quote on it. I think people would really like it. So I'll be announcing that shortly too. And then what else do I have going on? I feel like I have so many things. I'm gonna launch another like sector of me, I guess you could say. Because right now, I mean, I'm just promoting myself, the modeling like aspect of things, and I really kind of want to get more into like having a different section of me that's more based on like beauty, wellness, like hairstyling, that kind of thing. So it's like completely separate from like the modeling aspect, but it's still like another version of me, I guess you could say. Yeah, so then there's actually a few other things that I'm working on that are pretty big things, but I can't actually say anything about them yet just because it's like a contractual thing and I can't actually say anything about them. But basically, I'm doing a lot of things. I'm excited for where my future is headed.
Tell me about your website, Holly.
Oh, my website?
Yes.
So Holly JoAnne is my website. And I actually have neglected it for a little bit, so I need to go back on there and put more stuff on there. I started that a few years ago, and basically I started it because I wanted kind of like an outlet of like a place where I could just kind of put my thoughts on everything, whether it was, well, because people would ask me, you know, oh, like, what's your, I finally put my skincare out there. People have been asking me for like, I don't even know, it feels like years, but it's probably more of like, you know, just probably like 1 year, but it feels like an eternity. But people were just asking me like, what are you using? What is, so I finally put that all on that site. So, and people are still asking me like, what is my favorite self tanner and all this other stuff. And it's just like, it's kind of just a site where I kind of just put everything that I like. I can just share my favorite things with the world. People can go on there. Hopefully, people can get inspired by what they see on there. I think I have like a small health section, a travel section, fashion, beauty, a lot of other things. Once again, I need to update it because there's a lot of things that I want to put on there that aren't currently on there yet. But basically, it's just a site that is a place where I can connect with other people that have shared interests that are the same as mine. So,
and how can the viewers find you on social media, Holly?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
How can the viewers find you on social media?
Oh, so my Instagram is Holly JoAnne W. A lot of people like to say Holly Jo New, which I understand new looks like the end of it. I don't know why everybody says that. But But I'm like, no, it's my name. It's not new. But basically, it looks like new. I get it. So it's just Holly, HOLLY JoAnneW. That is my handle on Instagram. It is also my handle on Twitter. And I believe that it's also my handle on Facebook. I have a Facebook page too. So those are like my three. Instagram is my largest. Twitter, I'm trying to get my Twitter following kind of like on the same level as my Instagram, but I've never really used Twitter that much, so that's why my Twitter is like really sad compared to like my Instagram, because I use my Instagram daily. But yeah, my Twitter is like sad. But basically, it's the same handle, Holly JoAnne W. That's where you can find me.
Thank you so much, Holly, for joining me today.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you so much for having me.